YouTube, my name's Sean Connors and welcome back to The Outsiders, and let's build an RPG. We're on to the next programme in the series of this, and we're now up to the first path. This is the path of magic. We're going to look at that path in some detail, not huge amount, just enough to give you some ideas of where I'm going with this. Before we do, I think we should have a very quick recap of last week's video, not in terms of going over it, but just give you a few things that have come out from playtest. Clearly, this is one of those rare occasions where I can tell you that in playtest the mechanic was a triumph. It was a success. People really got it. They understood it. They could see how quick it was, efficient, very fast. Loved it. We were able to mock out a few characters based off what we know of the system so far, and again, it worked very, very well. We've got a list with your help, and thank you for those that sent in some emails about it. We've got a list of about 25 to 30 background skills which sort of fit. I'm going to try and whittle that down to about 24, 25, somewhere in that ballpark, but it's pretty close to where I want it to be. Some skills that were suggested will obviously be utilised in the paths, but thank you for those. A couple of questions that came out about skills last week that probably need to be covered off. The first one was, what if two skills are affecting the skill you suggested, like riding, Sean, last week? What would happen then? Would they both be negative, so you would lose all those ranks off the end? No, you take the very worst stat that affects a skill, and those are the ranks that you lose. So, for example, if you had a 3, then you would take 3 ranks off the end. The most you could progress to is 9 ranks. No matter what, you can only lose one lot of stats or ranks. The same would be true if you had 2 positive stats affecting a particular skill. You just take the best one that's affecting it, and those are the 3 ranks that you get to start with. So it's very, very easy. The other question that came out was, how many maximum ranks can somebody actually start with in any skill? Well, again, that's very easy. It depends on the highest stat that's affecting a skill. So if we take that scenario of riding, there was a 13 strength and a 9 manipulation. We take the 13 strength, we divide it by 2, because that's how many stats we have. We have 6.5, rounded down. 6 ranks is the maximum you can start with. And if that character already had ride skill, he would already have a bonus of 1 rank, so you could learn 5 more if you chose to do so. And we made a few decisions on how much it costs to learn those ranks, and so we've got a good system, a bare bones that's working. So let's quickly progress on to the Path of Magic. Now, why they're called paths is that they are built this way, like a flowchart. Very much the Path of Magic has a starting point, and that for this particular game is read and write. Now, the reason I've chosen read and write is because you have to imagine a culture that's 3 or 4 generations old. How many people are going to learn to read and write? Not many anymore. So I put it into the Path of Magic because it would be the sort of historical notes, the accumulation of untold lore and various other things. It sort of makes sense. Once you've learnt read and write, of course you can learn other languages. You can learn the Elven runes, the Dwarven runes. You can learn how to actually read the runes, actually how to utilise runes. You then implant runes, being able to write them yourself, which is the 3rd step along. So just to show you again, at the top you've got read and write. Off to the side of read and write you've got other languages. Other languages loops into Dwarven and Elven runes because they're particularly important. And then we have a link back in here. You can go straight down to read runes. You'll notice that it is possible for a player just to completely follow the line the quickest path down, but you would lose out on some of the other skills. You can always access them because you've already got read and write, so you can learn other languages. If you've got implant runes, you can find a way into learning Dwarven and Elven. You don't have to learn other languages to do that. You can, once you've read runes, read and write, you've got reading runes and then implant runes. Implanting runes is the key skill because it allows you to do things like potion lore, scroll lore, creating permanent runes on items or temporary runes on items, and you then have the ability to make alchemical type items, and of course runes, spells themselves you're able to then learn. But there are at least 3 steps before you get to learn runes, so runes is the 4th step. Now the runes themselves are the bit that we're going to focus on this week. I'm not going to bore you with that because that's really what that is, in essence, is key skills for the magician and a cost associated with them, exactly the same sort of formulas that we've already talked about. So what we're going to focus on for this video is the actual runes themselves. We're going to look at those. Now this one sheet of A4 paper effectively has a list of runes, and I've attached a symbol by the side of them. That's general runes that would govern most spells. One's for weapons and one's for armour. And at the bottom, the styles that exist to create spells. Let me explain styles first, and we'll come back to this sheet. Styles are things like create, perceive, transform, destroy, move, and control. In all cases, except for create, create is something from nothing. Perceive, transform, destroy, and control are things. Those are controlling, destroying, transforming things, perceiving things. And move is obvious, it's moving the magic to create an effect. Now, let's assume that somebody had the fire rune, that they'd accessed the fire rune as one of their spell choices. You can create any type of fire-based magic off those 6 styles. Let me explain how you would do it. You would have to describe the process to your GM, and they would have to agree that what you've done is right. So let's assume that somebody wanted to create a fireball. So the first thing you do is create, from nothing, a fire source in your hand. Now immediately, you obviously want to control it, because without control, of course, you've probably got a burning hand, or perhaps worse, you've burnt yourself, or you've completely miscast. So you would create the fire, control the fire, shaping it into a ball, and then send it to its target, costing 3 styles, 3 magic points, and you have created your first fireball. Naturally, of course, it doesn't mean it's going to hit. The person may have some defences, and so on and so forth. But it's very, very lovely, very elegant, and there's nothing you cannot do. So if you just take one off the top of my head, we'll take Mind as another example of a rune that exists. And let's say that you had a locked door, but you wanted to perceive into the room beyond. You would basically do the following. You would move your mind to the point beyond the door that's locked, and you would perceive into that room. So that would cost you 2 magic points, and then you're able to discern what is in that room. If there was nothing there, you could use a further magic point and move beyond, say, for example, say there was a door leading off the other side, you could move beyond that door with a referee's agreement, and then perceive into the next part of the room. Probably still only costing 3 magic points, but that's a decision for you and the GM to come to. But you can see the process, the idea behind it. So, very elegant, very, very simple, I think quite ingenious, and that one sheet creates every spell that you could ever want to do without all the hassle of having to write them down. It's really a collaboration process between you and the GM. Once you've agreed that the GM has agreed that's correct, that's how you do something, then that's how you do something. Now the beauty is, of course, there are ways to use different runes to create similar effects and cheaper, because obviously half of it is to use your abilities to figure out ways to do something cheaper, because obviously magic points are like healing. It's tough in this system. They don't come back quickly. Elves do have an advantage here. I mentioned this to the person that's kindly helping us write this, and we'll talk a bit about that at a later stage. Where elves suffer because they, obviously, as we mentioned in the previous video, they have a double healing rate. Here, they gain magic points back at twice the normal rate. So they do have the advantage. Elves generally tend to be much more... they seem to recover magic quicker. Doesn't mean they're not... Humans and other people aren't as powerful. It's just they don't recover the points back as much. But of course, there are ways around that, because that's the whole point of runes. That's the whole point of making your own things. That's the whole point of thinking through a magic system like this. So anyway, I give you tonight, I throw open to you the Path of Magic, and I'll quickly recap it. Of course, you have a path, and there are various steps in that path, and sometimes there are ways to navigate or circumvent certain bits on the path. So a very nice, simple idea, flowchart, if you will. And then you have a list of spells on a simple A4 sheet with styles. Those styles allow you to create the spells that you want to create based on what runes you choose to use. And that's the beauty here. Anything can be gained, and I believe it's a great fit for the system. So I present you this week with the Path of Magic, and again ask you to contemplate what you've heard, tell me what you think, give us your feedback as always, and anybody that wants to chip in which path they would like to see next, either combat or stealth, let me know. And keep your ideas flowing, because they have made a difference, and we will be doing a follow-up video on some of those ideas very shortly. Thank you for your time. Good night to you all, and happy gaming. I'll see you all soon. Bye-bye.